Welcome to Soar America. The Soar America team includes Eric, our pilot, who is going to attempt to fly his glider from coast to coast in a series of connected flights and only be the second person to achieve this goal. The rest of the team includes Julie, Tim, Diane, and Tim and Diane's dogs, Peggy and Ellie. Join us as we soar, camp, and drive across America.
So the flight from Deming was one with some interesting challenges. First, I needed to get up and get away from Deming. It was 50 to 60 miles to the nearest place I could self-launch, Las Cruces or Doña Ana County. That wasn't the biggest challenge, though. After that was to fly through a tight squeeze. I think it was only 7 miles wide. I forget. It's been months since I measured it. Between the El Paso International Class C airspace and the White Sands Missile Range restricted airspace. So getting through that squeeze between the airspace areas wasn't the only challenge with that leg of the flight. It was also 85 miles between safely landable airports. So I needed to get good and high to always have safe landing options.
So far, things have gone well. I launched. I turned the motor off about 1,200 feet above the ground, I think, into a thermal. Took it up to 10,500 or so. Headed upwind to a cumulus cloud. There are clouds today, finally. Oh my goodness, I'm so glad to see clouds again. Took that one up to 12.5, I think. So after those two climbs, I already have Las Cruces made, and those two climbs both averaged between 6 and 7 knots, bottom to top. Now there's a considerable blue area I'm having to cross, but it's buoyant. So far there's been more lift than sink in this blue stretch. I was headed more to the right, and then I noticed I was headed toward Mexico, so figured I better not leave the country. So it's looking good for the moment for at least getting to Doña Ana. I only need 1,500 feet or more to be comfortable reaching that far. And then the difficult part comes, making the squeeze near El Paso, between El Paso's Class C airspace and the White Sands restricted airspace. And then the 85-mile jump between safe landing options toward Del City, Texas. Should be interesting. I just topped out at about 11,000 feet. Right at the mouth of this corridor I have to fly through. The last field behind me I have made with 5,000 feet. I still lack about 6,500 feet to have Del City made. Del City is 76 miles away. So the only way to make that happen is find a few more climbs through here. I think I probably need to be around 12,000. So I need the climbs to get a little higher. At the halfway point, that's what I've roughly figured. I need to be about 12,000 to avoid getting out of reach of either Del City or this airport behind me, Williams, New Mexico. So we'll see how it goes. Well, I've already had to zigzag to avoid the restricted airspace for White Sands. The nearest good-looking cloud, that one over there, which I just noticed has a sweet dust devil under it. I'm pretty sure that one is just inside the restricted airspace, so I had to turn right and head straight toward the El Paso International, which is right there, Class C airspace, and hope this cloud I'm under now wasn't inside it. And thankfully it was not. It's really hard to judge distances in the air. So this isn't a great climb, but it's fair. There's kind of a blue area here for a bit, not many clouds to choose from, but it looks good from here to the east. So I think once I get up here, I should be comfortable enough to move on to the next cloud. I lost some altitude with the zigzag, so my situation for Del City is about the same. I still need a little over 6,000 feet. I'll talk to you in a bit. I'm almost ready to declare myself through the gap, though I'm right up against the restricted airspace. It's about a mile or two to my left. There's a nice cloud streak running off to the north-northeast for a long way, but I'm afraid it's within the restricted area. So I may have to venture out into this blue. It looks blue for a pretty long way beyond here before I see any clouds again. But I have my airfield just west of El Paso still made with 3,200 feet, and I have Del City made with 500 feet. Now that's not enough for comfort, but hopefully before I spend too much of the 3,100, I'll have added enough for comfort to the Del City number. Maybe the next cloud or the next will do that for me. Cool. And I did get about 12,000 feet, so the cloud base is rising. The top of climbs is rising, and it may let me do this. Almost ready to say it has. So I'll check back with you in a minute. Well, I guess this is Del City straight ahead, about 14 miles ahead. I have it made with 1,900 feet at the moment. I did something I was hoping to not do in the entire trek. I got to where I did not have a safe glide to a marked in my database safe landing place. So, and I got low enough, just there's been poor lift here for, I don't know, 40, 50 miles, it seems like. I couldn't follow the clouds. They went into the restricted area, so I had to leave the clouds, jump out into the blue, and it's blue here for a reason. And I got low enough that I wasn't comfortable. I had a spot to land picked out just in case the motor didn't work, but probably would have taken some damage from shrubbery on the ground on the wings. Can't tell. It's just really hard to tell the height of vegetation from up here. So I turned on the motor about 17 miles out from Del City, and wouldn't you know it, within a mile or two I finally found a thermal and was able to climb back up a little, enough to make Del City without the engine now. Hopefully, unless I find a lot of sink on the way. So that means tomorrow I'll have to, or the next day I fly, I'll have to backtrack to where I turn the engine on, cross over my track there, and continue. Because now that I've cut the motor off and on, it's as if I ended the flight. That's as much progress as I will count for myself for this flight. So here's Del City. Interesting, pretty large mountain on the east of it, and that cloud has been there for probably an hour. I think I saw it sort of dissipate once and rebuild, but right there in that spot, it's the best looking cloud around, but it's probably 20 miles away, so there's no way it was any help to me. So I'm just going to glide in, land, and we'll have an earlier night than usual. Del City traffic, glider different final for runway 8, Del City.
Landing here was a little challenging, but turned out fine. It was blowing pretty hard, 10 to 20 miles per hour straight across the runway, and the runway is only 55 feet wide, which means if I'm in the center of the runway, I have only 5 feet of clearance off each wingtip. The runway is
not in great shape. It's a little bumpy, and there's vegetation. I don't know, I didn't walk back and look at it, but flying over it, it looked like it was a couple feet tall. at the approach end of the runway, and I believe it's at both ends of the runway. So no big deal. There was plenty of runway behind the vegetation, but I did have to clear that and contend with a pretty stiff crosswind.